You want to win the presidency? Fix fucking stadium traffic. I
Yeah,
mean, come on.
literally.
It's
The
2024,
issues
fellas.
really
It
matter.
should not be that hard to get out of a stadium.
Hello and welcome to the Boys Upstairs Show. This is the Week 5 NFL show.
Woo!
It is the season 4 debut of our own Scott McCabe. So we'd like to welcome him to the program for the first time this season. He's been very busy, but he just recently became unemployed. So now he has time to do the Voice Upstairs show. So shout out to him for being here.
Yes.
Thank you, fellas. Thank you, fellas. I am activated off injured reserve, as our Nixon so kindly put it earlier today. So, ready to get going. Fresh start to the season for me. My picks haven't been great, but I'm about to change the course of that. So, yeah, it's good to be back. Fantasy team's on the up. The Cowboys are winning. It's all kicking into place, lads. So just watch out. That's all I'm saying.
So I have some data here, like I did last week. I'd like to start the show off with some data, general data. So data alert. The average spread through 4 weeks of ball this season is the lowest that has been since 1982. So basically, if you take all the spreads of all the games combined, they're the lowest they have been in 40 years, more than 40 years, which is pretty crazy, which basically means that there isn't like a lot of teams that are better. Like there's a lot of parity in the league. So little data there, a little more data here. 6+ point dogs this year are 14-2 against the spread, which is surprisingly also the best since 1982, which is weird that they're both 1982. Game one on the slate, we have the Buffalo Bills, fresh off a big loss to the Baltimore Ravens, going to Houston to play the Texans. Texans are favored -1.5. Some books have it at Bills favored -1.5, but essentially it's a pick 'em. Total is 47.5. It's a 1 p.m. start. We will give it to Scott.
It's the Texans for me, -1.5. I like them. I don't think they've been playing at the best this season. I think we can all say that. Let's not forget coming into this year, a lot of people were penning them down as potential Super Bowl appearances and maybe making the championship run, but they haven't quite looked like that squad has reached its full potential, and they've been dealing with a couple of injuries, Joe Mixon being the big one there. But in this game, Bills just got manhandled by the Baltimore Ravens at the weekend. We all saw it. It doesn't matter who you play. Derrick Henry just punishes you, and we can get to that later on in the show. But for me in this game, it's a revenge game as well for Stephon Diggs. Formerly with the Bills, now he's with the Texans, and I just think that is just going to play a huge factor in this one. He's had a decent season so far, and he's going to continue that against a team that he didn't leave in the best of terms as well. And he's a bit of a diva, but it's just going to give him added fuel to the fire. And I think he's going for a big one. If they get Tank Dell back as well, the wide receiver for the Texans, it's another bonus to them. CJ Stroud, he's not been great. He's been okay, but this is the game for me that the Texans really steer the ship right and get a good win on the board and make a statement to the rest of the league that they're here, they're legit, and they can take down one of the big dogs. And let's see them do it. I also like the over in this one. I think both sets have decent offenses. I'm higher on the Texans offense, which is why I'm picking them to win this game. But I still like what the Bills have managed to do without the likes of Stephon Diggs, Keon Coleman out of Florida State, and Khalil Shakir have managed to get points on the board for the Bills, and each week they keep doing it somehow. Obviously, last week was an exception, but yeah, I see the over hitting in this one. So for me, Diggs in for a big game. I'm going with the Buffalo, not with the Buffalo Bills. I'm going with the Houston Texans, and I think we're in for a cracker here, lads.
Because I have the same pick as you. I'm going to go ahead and ride with the Texans. I just think that considering what we saw out of the Bills defense last week, it's going to be hard with that hobbled secondary to cover all those weapons that the Texans have. And just like you said, the Texans haven't really looked up to par to the standard that we had from the beginning of the year. But I feel like this is one of those games where you go up against an injured secondary, you get some connections going. It's already been a month, you get some camaraderie and you get some, some easy throws, some guys going crazy, and then you kind of ride that out the rest of the year. I think this is going to be like you said, a high scoring, high flying game between two great quarterbacks. And but I like the Texans to put up some points and for CJ to have a big game. As you said, it's kind of going to be a revenge game for Stephon a little bit. And I just think what it boils down to is the Bills secondary is injured. They don't have the weapons on offense that they've had in the past, and it kind of showed last week in Baltimore when you're playing up against those like good defenses. It kind of shows itself a little bit more. So I'm gonna go ahead with the Texans.
I am going to go the opposite way in this game. So the Bills, like I mentioned, came off a big loss to Baltimore this past weekend. Josh Allen, more data, is 22-8 straight up after a loss in his NFL career. I think that the Texans are up there, even though that they're 3-1. I feel like they are potentially the worst 3-1 team thus far throughout the NFL season. They've been very disappointing. They played not so great last week against the Jags. They only won by 4. And I feel like this game is going to be one that the Bills are going to be up for just because of getting embarrassed last week. Texans are kind of like, I don't know yet. They had all the expectations in the world, like Scott was saying, but I just haven't been impressed thus far this season. So it's basically a pick 'em. Josh Allen was the MVP before last week. I don't know if he still is the favorite now, but I still think he's that guy. Going to take the Bills here. And I'm also going to take the over 47.5 because this game just feels like it'll be like a 28-24 type game. So I see it going over. A little more data. Josh Allen has 71 wins in his career. 51 of those are by 7 points or more. This spread is only 1.5. So I feel like this game, not that I think he's necessarily going to win by 7 or more, but more than not, he does. So I'm going to take the Bills.
When you first looked at this game and I first saw it on the slate, I was kind of like, oof, this is a real tough one. But then going in and just doing a little bit of a dive and just kind of doing just base level research, it didn't seem that hard to pick. And it seems like everyone and their mother is on the over right now, and that everyone would include me. And I'll start with why I'm taking the over is because both are very high powered offenses. Um, Josh Allen and the Bills have done a lot offensively for the past couple weeks, and they were a little bit shut down by Baltimore on Sunday night as they got dick slapped. It was pretty embarrassing, but I think Buffalo has to realize that you can't make Josh Allen do everything because the first 3 games of the season there was a little bit of okay, Allen's gonna go out there and play hero ball. He did it in the first game. The second game, Tua got his head blown off in the third quarter or whatever. And so that was kind of a wash. And then you saw it last week where they tried that weird toss play. He had a couple sick deep throws or whatever, but when there's not, and let's be honest, there's not much he's working with talent wise. Like Scott said, they do have some sneaky good receivers, some good weapons, but you got to be able to use them. You got to be able to put stuff together. The Texans, on the other hand, haven't really wowed me so far this season. They were coming in, and like Tommy said, they are 3-1, but I would put them at the bottom tier of 3-1 teams right now as they came to the season with very high expectations. They were supposed to be Super Bowl contenders. They were kind of a juggernaut, and they've looked kind of pedestrian. I mean, they went and got their doors blown off by the Vikings, who, credit to the Vikings, are a wagon right now. But they also kind of barely beat the Jaguars last year, who are shaping up to be the worst team in the league by a pretty healthy margin. And they are just an absolute train wreck right now. Offense is a little bit one-dimensional with the pass game, and Nico Collins right now, who is an absolute stud, by the way. But without Joe Mixon, like you guys said earlier, their run games kind of struggled just a tad. And you got Tank Dell back. Obviously, you got some more weapons to add in there. I don't think Buffalo really has a match for a high-powered passing offense like that. And you saw what happened when Baltimore came in and just exposed them last week with the run D. And the Texans here, like I said, I think the Bills 3-0 start. You could kind of call it fluky. I wouldn't call it a total fluke. They're still a good team. But hey, you're going into Texas here or Houston. That's not an easy crowd to play in front of. I know it's not a big deal for it's the NFL, whatnot, indoors. But I don't know. I just think we're looking at a shootout here, and I saw some analysts say it was a surefire shootout. And I kind of agree with that. I think you're going to see a lot of points scored. It's the offense is going to take over, and you're going to have to lean on your offense here. And I think the Texans do come out on top. I think it'll be really close. Maybe even come down to the final play. Who knows? But yeah, I'm gonna go with the Texans in the over here.
First, I definitely want to take the over. Well, first, I want to say I'm really excited for this game. This is the first matchup between Josh Allen and CJ Stroud. So that's a quarterback duel we've yet to see. So I'm excited to see what that looks like. And here's some data. The Bills so far average 28 points a game. The Texans average 20. That together equals 48, which is right over the 47.5 over underline. But the Texans had that 1 week against Minnesota. They scored 7. The Bills just scored 10. So if you take away both the teams one really bad week, that those numbers probably go up, and they're both really good offenses. Without those bad games, they probably average like 30 and 22, and that clears. So I think the over is definitely hitting. The Texans, they spent a lot of this offseason upgrading their front seven because they lost a couple pieces at linebacker and defensive tackle. So they made sure that they made those pieces up, but they kind of banked on the progression of their young secondary that hasn't necessarily progressed like they hoped. They've been having a little bit of secondary struggles. A lot of teams have been able to pass the ball on them. And I think in the league right now, the second person you don't want to see when you have a struggling secondary is probably Josh Allen after Patrick Mahomes. And especially like people were mentioning, coming off a bad loss, they probably got the chip on their shoulder. They want to bounce back and win. I feel like this is a game that CJ Stroud can take advantage of, especially since they've struggled a little bit offensively. But I am taking the Texans. The Texans were my Super Bowl pick. I got to ride with them. But 1.5 point spread, you got to take them. So Texans in the over.
As everyone has been saying, these teams have both somewhat underperformed. I think they're both 3-1, but even so, they've had some bad losses to both of them. But they also have been putting up points, so gonna take the over. Stay out.
Game 2 on the slate here. AFC North divisional battle. Baltimore Ravens are favored by 2.5, going to Cincinnati. Total is 50.5. It's a 1 p.m. start as well, and we will give it to our resident Ravens fan, Nixon.
First things first here, 50.5 for an AFC North divisional game. What is Vegas thinking here? I don't know if they haven't watched the AFC North in the past 4 years, 5 years. That doesn't happen this game. I'm going to take the under. Obviously, I'm going to take Ravens spread here. Just to explain my reasoning a little bit, Cincinnati is, I believe, the 29th ranked team in rushing efficiency, meaning that they're bottom of the league in when you run the ball, and we are the number 1 rushing team in the NFL, have 2 top 10 rushers in Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. Secondary has been playing absolutely abysmal. They have, I believe, Geno Stone and a couple other guys in the secondary, and from what I've seen, they have not been performing well. So for just my own personal preference, I would like to see us throw the ball a little bit more. I mean, these last couple games we've won, but Lamar's thrown the ball under 20 times. I mean, if that's what it takes to win, that's what it takes. But I would like to see us be able to attack a weak secondary, especially because Cincinnati's front seven's a little bit better than the Bills. And so I don't know if we're going to be able to run the ball as efficiently. So I definitely want to be able to see Lamar throw it to the guys on the outside, throw it to Mark Andrews, throw it to Isaiah Likely, and kind of win the game that way. With all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and take Ravens spread, even though I do know that Cincinnati is kind of going to play with some they have to win this game, because not only is it important for the division, because if they lose, they drop all the way down to the bottom. They're at 1-4, and that's a deep hole to dig yourself out of, especially when your only win is against Carolina. Like, what type of confidence do you have going into the next couple of weeks? And it would be important for us to win as well, because at 3-2, we creep up a little bit closer to the Steelers at the top of the division, and we are 1-0 against a division. But it's going to be a tough game. We're going on the road. Joe Burrow is going to be, he's going to have to play up to a crazy standard, because they have to win this game essentially. But I don't know. I think their offense is going to be able to perform. I just don't know if they're going to be able to hold us down defensively. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Ravens.
I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to go with the Ravens as well. I think we are at the point where the regular season Ravens that we know, and I talked about this whenever we picked them last time, are back. They had their rough first start, whatever. They were a toe away from tying and possibly beating the Chiefs, and whatever the hell happened in week 2 against the Raiders. But I digress. Let's just say the Ravens are back. And the Ravens, as we know them. I mean, that run game last week, that was peak Ravens from the past couple of years, or on Sunday night. That's what we're used to seeing, them scoring, them kind of just taking control of the game, being out physicaling, however you say it, everyone. But I think also this is another game that could be a possible slugfest and be a lot of scoring in, because no matter how the Bengals are against other teams, no matter how bad their record is or whatever the hell's going on, they'll show out to play their rivals. As you see it with the Chiefs, they always give them a good game, no matter how bad or good they are. And you see it with the Steelers, the Browns, and the Ravens too. Like their biggest rivals, they're going to show out for. Joe Burrow has been a hot quarterback recently. I saw something he's been like has three QB1 worthy appearance or games so far, whatever that means. But yes, their offense has looked good. Their defense, on the other hand, is a big, big problem. They're currently 28th in pass pressure, and not getting pressure down to a guy like Lamar Jackson and with a run game like that is not good. Um, Especially when you can't get your D line going up front. The Ravens, I think they're just a better team. -2.5. They're going to win this game and the over.
Although this is like something I feel like is pretty well known. Lamar Jackson's 4-1 against Joe Burrow in his career. 3-2 against the spread, but this is pretty low spread. Some more data though, which I don't think a lot of people are aware of. Zach Taylor, the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals, possibly the Cincinnati Bengals once again, is just 11-20 straight up against AFC North opponents. So that's something to consider, something to chew on. I do agree with Nixon and Sam. I think the Ravens are a better football club. I agree with Nixon as well that 50.5 for an AFC North game is like probably the highest total I've ever seen for an AFC North game. If this was the Steelers versus the Bengals, or the Steelers versus the Ravens, it would be like 27. And on that front, there's been 4 games this year that have a total above 50, and all 4 have gone under. And I think that of those, this is probably the most likely to go under. So because of those reasons, I'm going to take the Ravens here, -2.5, and I'm also going to take the under.
I'm going to take the exact opposite. Vegas knows somehow, and they know that the last 2 meetings against the Ravens and the Bengals have gone over the spread or whatever it's called. So these guys like to battle it out. And I think they're going to do it again.
So I'm gonna take the Ravens -2.5. And I have a weird feeling, the Bengals are 1-3. Why is the spread only 2.5? I feel like it maybe should be a little bit greater for how these teams have been playing. And it's just like this is one of those games. The Ravens is one of those games Joe Burrow always comes to play. But I had that same thinking last week, and the better team just won. So this week, I'm just taking the better team. I think the Ravens, defensively are top 5. And the Bengals have been struggling. Obviously, they got 1 win, and it was against the fucking Panthers. They're hurting this year. The Ravens have looked good. They started out slow, but they picked it up since then. I think that Raiders game was a real like slap in the face that we can't just phone this in. Like even though we've been good in previous years, we really got to win our division and earn it. And I think they're going to take this as one of the first chances to beat down on a division opponent. And I'm also going to take the over, which I know it's a high over for this game. Joe Burrow against the Ravens throws for 260 a game, 268 actually, 12 touchdowns. He's only thrown 4 picks with a 67% completion percentage. That's really good, which means he always comes to play against the Ravens. So I think he's going to be putting up some points because no matter how good the Ravens defense has been, he's always found a way to tear him up. So I'm not going to let the division under fool me this time. And I'm going to go with the over as well as the Ravens.
Fair. I'm gonna echo what the other fellas have said. I'm gonna go against the grain here, Kobe, with yourself. I think the comment from Joe Burrow this week, lads, set the tone for this game, and he said, "I'm gonna have to play damn near perfect," and he's not wrong. He's gonna have to play damn near perfect to beat this Baltimore Ravens team. We all said it. We could all see it coming at you. Derrick Henry. We all know he's gonna get the ball, and we all know Henry's gonna run at you. But there doesn't seem to be a structure in place to stop it. It's like the tush push. It just you can see it, but you can't stop it. And I think it's going to be the exact same thing for the Cincinnati Bengals. And I saw it against the Cowboys. We saw it against the Bills when he ripped off a 94-yard touchdown run. You just can't stop the run. My concern for the Ravens is that they are too one-dimensional. Nixon, I think you'll agree with that. It's they're just going to run that ball, and that's great. But what happened last season, lads, when they played the Kansas City Chiefs? They were forced to throw it, and that's when we saw the errors. And ultimately, that's why they lost that game. Lamar was put under pressure. They had to throw it when they didn't want to. It results in a pick six or an interception, and there we are. So I hope for Ravens fans, it's a different story this time around. Zay Flowers has not had the season we kind of thought he would, but there's still time for that. I thought Justice Hill had a great game, the running back. So they're finding ways to get different players involved, which is great to see, and it's encouraging. I'd like to see a bit more passing from Lamar in this game, as Nixon previously alluded to. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Ravens -2.5, number one team, number one offense in the NFL. And to be honest, one of my top three teams in the NFL at the moment. They've really steered the ship correctly. They're right back on track where they need to be. This game is huge divisional implications, and I think they're gonna win this one comfortably. In my eyes, having 5 touchdowns in 4 games, it's outrageous, but it's also scary to me because I'm saying, are you, wearing and tearing your star too much? It's a long season. We all know that. You got to keep him healthy. You can't be too one-dimensional. You can't be too unreliable. But it's Derrick Henry. You can't expect him to not use him. But I think Henry's in for a big game, and I'm also going to go with the under, as we all have agreed that it's just too many points. And I do think Burrow will come out here. He'll look like Slim Shady. He'll look like they're the real deal. But if they put on a show, the Bengals, I don't think they're doing it in this one. I think they lose, and they've got the Giants next week, so that could be a rebound game for the Bengals. But for me in this one, it's the Ravens in the spread and the under. That's where I'm at.
It's time for the best part of the show. It's time for the locks of the week, and we're going to give it to Sean.
So I'm going to take the worst game on the slate and bet on the Patriots against the Dolphins. The Dolphins have packed it in. They're done for the year. And I think they're going to trade Tyreek, and they're starting Huntley, who looked awful. So I think the Patriots show some promise, at least from week one they did. So I'm going to take them -1.
I'll go next because I have the exact same lock as Sean. I'll just throw some more info out there. This is potentially Jacoby's last game as a starter. The clock's ticking. Eventually, they're going to have to play Drake May. They weren't going to do it this past week against the 49ers, possibly the best team in the league. I'm honestly a little surprised that they aren't doing it this game because this is a very winnable game. But Jacoby's from South Florida. This is against the Dolphins. I feel like he will be all the way turned up because this could be his last start, maybe ever. And one more piece of data. Mike McDaniel is 1-6 all time without Tua as his quarterback. He's not going to be the quarterback this week. It's going to be Tyler Huntley again. So for those reasons, I'm going to take the Patriots -1.5 as well in possibly the worst game of the season.
Knowing what I know about how the Patriots go about playing offense, and after witnessing the absolute abysmal football on what was that, Monday night in Miami against the Titans, I am extremely confident in the under of 37.5. I think neither team scores 2 touchdowns. And I'm just going to take the under on that game, same game.
I might jump in and shake it up a bit, fellas. And I think I'm going to throw you guys off with a bit of a curveball here. It's not often I do this, and I really have to try and take a deep breath to try and get these words out of my mouth. But I'm taking the Washington Commanders as my lock of the week.
Ooh,
-3. And fellas, that cuts deep, right? That hurts me. But we're here for the listeners. We're here for the show. And we got to give our best picks. And ultimately, this is what I think is the best pick of the week. The Commanders are red hot, and I did not think I'd be saying that this season. Jaden Daniels, he was either going to be a boom or a bust. We were going to see like a Bryce Young development, or we were going to see a CJ Stroud type of rookie year. And we're seeing it leading the charge, and I love them. And who do they get? The Cleveland Browns, a team that are completely lost. They look awful on offense. They have the second worst defense in the NFL. They've lost to the Giants and the Raiders back-to-back now, losses for them. That's who they've played the last 2 weeks. So you expect me to take them over the Red Hot Commanders at home as well? No, I don't see it. So I'm going with the Commanders. I know Omad will be happy that the Commanders are in prime form. And look, the Commanders fans, they've had a rough few years. They've had their name change, for God's sake. Like, so give them a bit of hope, bit of something. And this is the game for them to, I suppose, just steamroll in my eyes. And I don't think the Browns have much of a chance.
2 people who have invested interest in this game. Sunday Night Football, waiting all day for Sunday night, and I will tell you, I will be waiting all day for Sunday night for this Cowboys-Steelers game. Prime time. I am very excited to watch this one. My guy Justin Fields on his new team is, let's just say, he's electric right now. Yes, they lost to the Colts last week, but hey, he threw for 300 yards and rushed for 90 or 55 with 2 TDs. He looks legit, fellas.
He's the
Justin Fields.
guy. He's the guy,
Yep.
Sam.
He might.
Give him
He's
the
he's a
give him the
guy.
keys.
He's a guy. Give him the keys. I'll keep my thoughts on Chicago quiet right now, but yeah, Fields is a dude. And we just gotta say that you gotta accept at this point. He's a guy. But I mean, hey, Steelers defense, they let down last week against the Colts. I don't think they thought the Joe show was gonna be coming in, and I think it caught them by surprise a little bit. They had a little game plan set up for Anthony Richardson, which is I mean, you got to call it what it is with Anthony Richardson at this point. When you're game planning against him, you want to pick the ball off because he's not an accurate thrower unless he'll have one good 60-yard bomb every game, but he's just not an accurate thrower and then contain him. And then when primetime Joe comes in the game, everything changes from there. You're going to get a lot of check downs, a lot of accurate passes, a lot of calculated throws with that. So they can throw defense off. So I'll give the Steelers a little bit of a pass there. But Cowboys, on the other hand, haven't other than that what's it called second half against the Ravens where they just kind of exploded and we're kind of playing in
Mhm.
2 minute mode for the entire second half almost. They haven't looked like that explosive offense in regular season wise that we're used to seeing that's going to go out and put up 30 points a game. And I'd be shocked if Mike Tomlin is out there talking to his team right now saying the way we're going to win this game is by putting up a ton of points on the board. I think this game is going to come down to defense here on Sunday night. Um, Steelers, the unit is too elite to kind of let that Colts game get in their head. They're going to be preparing hard. They're going to be getting after Dak hard. It's what can I say? They're a unit and they're going to be firing on all cylinders. And the Cowboys defense too. A lot of ball hawks there. You don't know necessarily how that's going to work with Fields. I don't know. I think Micah Parsons is out. I've heard last thing I heard
Mhm.
was that they're leaning that he's out, which is very good for a guy like Justin who
Marcus Lawrence
pressure.
too, Sam, as well.
Yeah, DeMarcus Lawrence is out too. So you
Mm.
give Fields a little time in the pocket there, and I'm interested to see how that goes. All things said, gentlemen, 44 and a half total in a Steelers game. We've done this for years now, and Steelers overs don't hit very often. And with the Cowboys offense not looking like on their full potential right now, and the Steelers just being the Steelers, where your quarterback can throw for 400 yards, but at the same time, you're going to score 15 points. I don't think this game goes over 44 and a half, and it won't. So I'm going to take the under in that one as my lock. Let's wait for Sunday night, fellas.
I'm taking the Packers -3 against the Rams. The Packers had a tough loss against the Vikings just because Jordan Love, it took him a second to kind of get his rhythm back, get back into the game. They went down 28-0 early and they almost came back. They lost by like 2 points or something because once Jordan Love got his footing and got his rhythm back, they were moving like they always do. So I think after that tough loss, against the Rams, who are completely beaten up. I mean, no Puka, no Cooper Kupp. Demarcus Robinson is questionable, so they could be going into the game with Jordan Whittington, Tutu Atwell, and Tyler Johnson as their three-headed snake, and that's more like a three-headed rabbit. So I'm pretty sure that's not Packers defense also has been elite. Their passing defense has been great. They have so many picks. And if Matthew Stafford's throwing to no one, he might give you one or two. And they have the 11th best rush defense in the league, which is just outside the top 10, but they're right here with the Jags. So, the Rams are going to have to run it a lot. They got a top half rushing defense, and I think they're going to put up a lot of points and way more than the Rams will. I know that Christian Watson probably isn't playing, but that really doesn't matter because, the Packers offense is everybody gets 25 yards and everyone can be happy. So I really don't think that matters. They got depth. And I feel like after Jordan Love showed that in the second half, he really got his rhythm back, that they're going to go in here and kill the Rams. They're depleted. Their secondary is also very injured. They have like two starting corners and a starting safety injured. So, Jordan Love's going to be thrown against the injured secondary. Their offense is depleted. This is just the Rams practice squad getting a chance to play football against the Packers. So
You're disrespecting the Bears right now, Cobb.
why? Because they beat the Rams?
Yeah, by 6. And you're saying that it's a practice squad team, and it was a hard, it
Well,
was a
if you
hard
think
month.
about it, though, Demarcus Robinson was playing last week, so that kind of changed the game.
Is he out this? Oh wait, did he
Is
get hurt during that
Demarcus
game?
Robinson a game changer?
He's pretty
Yeah,
good.
are we? I don't know if he's reached generational status like Juwan Jennings did that week, but like he's nearly there.
It says he's questionable, and he's not. They're not sure if he's going to play yet, so he is questionable. So if he plays, he's not at full strength, and if he doesn't play, then Jordan Whittington is wide receiver one, like we all wanted.
I think
Um,
Jawan Jennings is a top 5 receiver in the league right now. If
yeah,
I'm
dude,
not
the,
Man,
wrong.
the
That's
put
top
him in the
five.
asinine. He
move,
got
like
10 points last week or something.
Have you guys seen the receiving yard leaders? It's like Nico Collins, Jawan Jennings, like Jamison Williams. It's like the most random 5 receivers. If you close your eyes and pick 5 random NFL receivers, it's the top 5 receiving leaders in the NFL.
Shout out to Juwan Jennings. All right, well, hey, thanks for being here. Thanks for joining us. Happy Rosh Hashanah also. Thank you, Cobe, for being here on the holiday.
That's
Uh,
sacrifice right there.
yeah,
Shout out my Jews, man.
Cobe cares about ball. Um, but yeah, hey, tell everybody you know to watch the Boys Upstairs show. Little bar right there. And yeah, like and subscribe.
Cole Komet, come on the show.